So thank you for being with us, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So tell us your story.
I love writing. That's how I kind of process my feelings. So I'm going to read to you what I wrote. So I'm honored to say that I was blessed with parents who consistently took our family to church for as long as I can remember. Church was a happy place for me, where I remembered the smells of sugary, fresh, glazed donuts, the sounds of hymns played on the piano, and feelings of excitement while playing hide and seek on Wednesday nights in the 3-story building that was known as Birchwood Baptist Church. My earliest memories of my pastor were of him smiling, wheeling his paraplegic wife, Kay, around in a wheelchair, always making time to talk to not only adults but kids. Over time, Pastor Jim and his weekly prompts to surrender one's life to Jesus began to take root, and I knew that I wanted to commit my life to following him. I trusted what he said because I saw Jesus in his life. One night when I was 8, I felt overcome by a spiritual presence in my bedroom. I remember crying, I started to shiver, and I went and got my mom, and I told her I was ready. She led me to Christ in my bedroom in Kansas City, Missouri in 1985. Strangely enough, I believe that a true call to ministry for me happened after that day. I felt so certain that I would marry a pastor one day who had the same gentleness that I saw in Pastor Jim. After I became a Christian, my grandmother, who lived down the street, began to spend more time with me, teaching me about taking one day at a time in my faith journey. She was no stranger to suffering, and we seemed to have kindred spirits. She was a true victim of real depression that she struggled with her entire life. I felt a sadness like hers off and on as early as I could remember as a child, and she was the only one who could see and understand it. She had this remarkable ability to pray all throughout the day under her breath, depending on God to get her through each difficult moment. I wish I would have watched my grandmother Ruth more closely because the pressures of life began to take hold in public high school. I had some close friends who did not love Jesus. Instead of being a witness to them, I just joined their empty lifestyle. Well, later, God opened doors for me to move across the country to be a student at Grand Canyon University. For the first time in my life, I made Christian friends who challenged me to grow closer to God. The summer before my senior year, I was awarded an internship to be a student at Focus on the Family in Colorado Springs. It was 1998. Upon arriving with 30 other students, I met my professor. His name was John Eldridge. He had lost his best friend in a rock climbing accident just 2 weeks before the summer session started. He was in utter pain, and he poured out his heart to us, making us purposely question our faith. He said, this was in 1998, that there would be a day when we would be forced to confront a culture that has no absolute truth anymore. He also said that true Christian growth is messy, like a bunch of lines scribbled all over the place on a whiteboard. Well, God's plan for my life seemed to be nicely unfolding as I returned from my summer experience, only to meet Brian Hook. Yes, he was a gentle pastor, but things were messy. He was the victim of divorce, and he had 2 kids. He was also a trailblazer by nature, which completely contradicted the stability that I was raised with. My family loved Jesus, but they never took giant leaps of faith. Brian also wanted to start a church, like from scratch. My faith journey took off like a rocket ship blasting into space the day I said I do to Brian in 1999. We planted a church in Phoenix just 1 year after being married. Then we adopted our son, Noah. Next, we moved to Texas to follow our oldest kids and learn the value of forgiveness as we navigated the adventure of being part of a blended family. Then we adopted Noah's sister, Faith. After that, God moved us to Las Vegas after our oldest friends finished high school. At that point in life, I was weary. Our years in Vegas. I don't have that much more.
No, take your time.
our years in Vegas were spiritually, physically, and emotionally draining for me. In 2016, Brian and I both heard a call to plant a church again when we were sitting at a service at Hope Church in Las Vegas. But this time it was Tucson. I questioned God over and over again about this. And God was clear. We were going, and the name of the church would be Aspire. I really didn't understand because my life had become messy, like on a whole new level, just like John Eldredge said that it would. Unlike Kay from Birchwood Baptist Church, I was not a paralyzed pastor's wife in a wheelchair. I didn't need my husband to push me around like I remember Pastor Jim doing so cheerfully. I was indeed paralyzed, though. The darkness of depression always loomed around the corner, and Brian never knew when it would strike, shifting all responsibilities onto his plate. For days and sometimes weeks at a time. I just remember asking, why, God, would you call me, somebody like me, to lead a church now? And I asked, and I said, I'm not the type of person who can do this. But God said, actually, Jessica, you are exactly the type of person I need. Your brokenness is what qualifies you. You see, Jessica, people can't see me. They can't know me and depend on me unless they themselves have fallen apart. And they won't grow unless you show them the beautiful mosaic of painful pieces that I saw long before you were born. So what's different about being a Jesus follower? Is life easier? No. Pain still exists in a fallen world. But this pain has purpose. It points us to a Savior who loves us and who gives us life. He's really the only source of love. So if you haven't made that decision to step forward and you've never experienced that kind of love, I encourage you to talk to somebody. Talk to me, talk to Rob, just talk to anybody. That's all.
Wow, thank you so much, Jessica. I have a question for you. Yeah, give her a hand. Absolutely. I do have a question for you. Out of that, is there any verse that really stands out to you that means a lot to you?
Well, it's interesting. I had referred to my grandma, and I just remember I would always kind of see her. She took her time, and I felt like she really did pray a lot. She just depended on God, and it was just like a steady way of life for her. So Romans 12:12, I just wanted to share that because that just reminds me of Ruth. And it's be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer.
Oh, thank you so much. Here, I'll go ahead and take that. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, give her another hand.